Well, my brothers and sisters, it's not a very pleasant topic to talk about, and it's not one that I would have chosen for a Father's Day homily, but it's been in the news quite a bit, and I think it's important to say something. Many of you are aware that this last Friday, on the Solemnity of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, the LA Dodgers honored a group called the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. And this group is dedicated primarily to the open mockery of the church's teaching on human sexuality. There's been a lot of talk these days about the good work that the group does to serve those who struggle with AIDS and to serve the homeless and the needy. And if that is true, it's good and needs to be affirmed as a good. But the fact is that the heart of the group really is the open mockery of the church and the church's teaching on the meaning of human intimacy. And this mockery is done in the most awful of ways, in mocking in scandalous fashion the most sacred things within our faith, most notably the person of Jesus and the person of our Mama Mary. And there are all kinds of evidences of this heart of the matter for this group. And so it is outrageous that the LA Dodgers honored such a group. Absolutely outrageous. And people of goodwill, Catholic and otherwise, were right to express their horror and their shame at such a move. Now let's be very clear. The reason we are upset is not because this group objects to the church's teaching on human sexuality. There are many such groups. And there are many groups and individuals who do this with a modicum of respect. Not this group. You know, my brothers and sisters, I happen to think that the Book of Mormon is a wholesale fabrication. I happen to think that there are parts of the Quran that are openly dangerous to human flourishing. You will not find me burning a copy of either of those books in the parking lot, because I have some sense of the dignity and respect that we are to show to other people and their deepest held beliefs. It is outrageous what the Dodgers did, and we pray for the conversion of hearts that invited this group, and what is more, for the conversion of the hearts of those who participate in their activities. My brothers and sisters, it seems to me that this context is an important and good one to remind us all of the church's teaching regarding human intimacy, the meaning of human sexuality, and the fundamental connection between human intimacy and family life. And we begin by doing this in our discussion of what is the church's teaching on those who have same-sex attraction with what the Catechism actually teaches. Because the big old book of what Catholics believe has something to say about it. Don't let the talking heads on either side of the aisle, whether or not they got a collar, by the way, mislead you. Look to the Catechism itself. What does the church teach about this? Paragraph 2358. 2358. The number of men and women who have deep-seated homosexual tendencies is not negligible. They do not choose their homosexual condition. For most of them, it is a trial. They must be accepted with respect, compassion, and sensitivity. And every sign of unjust discrimination in their regard should be avoided. These persons are called to fulfill God's will in their lives, and if they are Christians, to unite to the sacrifice of the Lord's cross the difficulties they may encounter from their struggles. Right there in black and white. We are called to honor and respect every human being, regardless of whether they are heterosexual or homosexual, black or white, poor or rich. One of the hallmarks of the Christian faith is love for all people, no matter what they have done or not done, even those who dress up and mock the faith. We're called to love them too. And any kind of slurs, racial or otherwise, is completely counter to what we are called as Christians, and they are sins. It is a sin to speak of a human being in a term which does not respect their dignity, and it's a confessable sin. My brothers and sisters, we are called to walk with people and to encounter them and to love them, whatever their struggles may be, because Jesus did this. And we always, it seems to me, must also assume the best of individuals, even those who are living a particular lifestyle that we know is counter to both divine and natural law. We must assume the best. What do I mean by that? We assume that those who are engaging in these sorts of lives are looking for love. And that is a good thing. Because we're broken, because we're fallen, we look for love in 1,000 different ways, some of which are very unhealthy. And that's regardless of what your particular inclination may be. Love can come out sideways because we are fallen. But the fact is that while we accept individuals, and by that I don't mean accept behaviors, I mean we accept them as a beloved son or daughter of God, we also recognize, because we have eyes to see, that there is a lobby. There's a lobby that has an agenda. And that lobby that has done some very, very impressive work in terms of being effective has pushed for wholesale acceptance of a lifestyle that we as Christians simply cannot accept. We cannot accept a lifestyle that is counter to the expressed will of God and to natural law, which is a different thing than saying we do not accept people. What is the natural law? The natural law, in simplest terms I would offer to you all, is we look out in nature and we see how nature basically works. And we recognize that we are part of that nature. And those activities that run counter to the way of nature, not the law of the jungle, but the way of nature, are problematic. And those activities that further the law of nature or help it along, we support it. And we see it as a celebration of human reason. One such law that we recognize in nature is that the only human activity that results in a human being is when a man and a woman come together in an intimate embrace. That is the only time that a human being is conceived. And that should show us something about the meaning of human sexuality. It's not completely and absolutely all about procreation. No, of course not. Of course not. No. Some of the greatest poetry and music of all human experience has been about this drive for union with the other, quite apart from the reality of family life. But the fact is that it is essentially, in its very nature, connected to family life. And that when you devoid human sexuality from family life, dangerous things happen. Dangerous things happen. The way that I like to describe the drive for human intimacy, which is one of the most compelling and deep-seated drives that every human being has, it's like a fire. In fact, many love songs are spoken about as a fire. And a fire, if it is in the right spot, in the right place, under the right conditions, will provide comfort and energy and peace and warmth. But when you experience fire outside of where it's supposed to be enjoyed, it does tremendous damage to people, to marriages, to the innocent. And we see it all around us, perhaps even within our own lives. Human intimacy is a profound gift of God, and it's an incredibly powerful gift. Incredibly powerful gift that when not connected essentially to family life is, again I say, dangerous. My friends, we must respect all people. We must honor all people. We as Christians can get behind this. What we cannot accept is the pushing of a lifestyle that sees human intimacy as separated essentially from family life. And what I mean by that is not, first and foremost, simply the adoption of children, although that's a beautiful thing, beautiful. I mean the essential connection of the act to a child. Now, we all recognize that there are instances, of course, great mysterious crosses where married couples are not able to conceive. We recognize that. And we recognize that sometimes couples will get married later in life, where, barring a biblical miracle, you're probably not going to have a kid. But there's still a difference. And that is that action between that man and woman is still, in its essence, open to life. Something is preventing it. But all conditions being as they should be, a child would be conceived. There is no case where a couple of the same sex come together and a child is conceived. This simply will not happen. And that should show us something. God has instituted this great gift, has given us this great gift for the flourishing of family life. And the reason why the church is so keen on keeping human intimacy within the bounds of marriage, one of the reasons, not the only reason, but one of the reasons, is because a beautiful child has a right to a mom and a dad. And when you bind together two people, there's civil bonds and the expectations of the community, leaving aside the sacramental reality. That's a good thing. It is objectively better for a child to have both a mother and a father. We recognize there are many instances where this cannot happen, and many single parents who live heroically. But it still is the case that objectively it is better for a child to experience the reality of masculinity and femininity, however those things are expressed. And of course, we all recognize there's a continuum. Isn't that the line these days? There's a continuum, of course. But there still is male and female. And by the way, this is true on the molecular level. The molecular level, a difference between male and female. My goodness, medicine has to be different for a male or a female because the doses matter. That should open our mind to the fact that nature is composed in a certain way with male and female. And this matters for the formation of children. It is not the case that marriages between homosexual persons and marriages between those of opposite sexes are equal. We see the equal sign in many bumpers these days. It's simply not the case. One glaring difference is that one can result in a child and the other cannot. And this has to be incredibly painful. And in my opinion, and this is simply Father Erickson's opinion, you do not have to take it or leave it. I think one of the reasons why many of those who struggle with same-sex attractions have challenges in mental health is because they know deep down they're being driven to something which cannot fulfill their deep desire. It's a mysterious effect of the fall, but it's there. And it's a mystery, and we pray for that they might carry that cross with our support and with our love. Now, how can you as individuals, as parents, as children, as spouses perhaps even sometimes, as siblings, as friends, as colleagues, how can you support the individual in your life that you love that struggles in this area, or perhaps has given themselves over to a particular lifestyle that is counter to human dignity? How can you do that? It's not always easy, is it? And again, it always upsets me when people talk to other family members or talk to parents of children in this situation and say, you should do this, you should do that. Oh, what do you know? Each situation is different and has to be handled as individuals. Don't be telling somebody what they should or shouldn't be doing in terms of how do they walk with someone in their family struggling with difficult issues such as this. Now, you can offer them suggestions and support, and you can pray for them, but respect the fact that there are many different things you got to consider here. You know, a parent, how do you support your child with this particular attraction? How do you do it without supporting the lifestyle? Certainly nothing that we say or do can actively support the lifestyle. In other words, we can't applaud or congratulate them on a new relationship. That's just not permissible. We can't attend same-sex marriages, so to speak. We can't do that as Christians because it is counter to God's plan for the human person. Sometimes people will offer the objection, well, Father, we recognize that sometimes people get married outside of the church, and we know that a precept of the church is to get married in the church. And yet sometimes, I've heard you say, Father, that to keep that relationship open, you can be present for that marriage, as long as the couple doesn't think that you're supporting their decision not to be married in the church. Fair enough, but I think it's still fundamentally different. Because again, when you're dealing with a man and a woman, whatever their particular background or struggles may be, it's still a man and a woman. And you see there the natural end for which human sexuality has been given to us in a way that you do not with a same-sex couple. So it is different. And for that reason, the laws I would offer for moral engagement are also different. What about attending the home of a loved one who is in a relationship with someone of the same sex? I think there we have to pray for great prudence, great love. I also think it matters if you have young children or not, because a child is impressionable, and it can be very confusing for a child, and that matters. When you become a parent, sometimes you have to make very hard decisions, and that can be very alienating. And I know many couples who have done difficult things heroically, with love and charity, but still in the truth of the gospel. My friends, we have to love the person. We have to communicate to them, you are loved by God, and I assume the best of you, and I want to support you and be with you. But love is not love. In other words, what I mean by that is that not all human relationships are centered around human intimacy. We see that in 1,000 different ways. God has destined the love between a man and a woman open to life and to family life. That is the particular fireplace where that fire can be enjoyed and is meant to be enjoyed. But there are many other instances where the experience of human intimacy would immediately strike us as not only felonious, but fundamentally wrong. And it should. Because human intimacy is reserved for a particular setting. I do not want to dwell on this, but the danger is when you separate it, in some sense, all bets are off. There are two groups that I want to call your attention to. One is courage and the other is encourage. Courage is a support group for those who are striving to live the church's teaching on human sexuality, who struggle with same-sex attraction. And we have a chapter here in the Archdiocese. It's an anonymous group. I think we oftentimes are unaware of the real struggles that those who struggle with same-sex attraction may have, who are striving to live chastely, because there's so much peer pressure from the society, so much peer pressure on movies, so much peer pressure. And so they need some level, it seems to me, of anonymity. Not because we're trying to whitewash their faces, no. Because it's hard to do what they are trying to do. So, if you yourself or know a loved one who is striving to live the church's teaching in this matter and wants support, call the Archdiocese and say, I want more information of the local chapter of Courage. This is different, by the way, than Dignity. Dignity is a group counter to the church's teaching on same-sex attraction and clothes itself in all kinds of wonderful pastoral language, but is not of the faith. Courage is. And then there's encourage. Encourage is for loved ones who have loved ones in same-sex relationships or struggling with this particular inclination, to support them. Parents, siblings, friends. Again, perhaps even spouses themselves. To support you in your particular desire to be of support to your loved one. And again, this group is also anonymous and can be accessed through calling the Archdiocese. My friends, we all have struggles, all of us. Whether they're in the matter of human intimacy or identity, we all have struggles because we are fallen. And because of that, life can be hard. And we need to support one another and love one another. and show real respect for the way in which we have been made for a love that this world cannot satisfy. Why do some of our brothers and sisters struggle with same-sex attraction? I don't know. I think in some cases it's this, in some cases it's that. It is far too easy to simply cast a wide swath and say everybody who has this is this way, or this kind of a father or this kind of a mother. I don't buy it. And I don't think the church buys it either. It's a mystery. But the fact is that some individuals struggle with this, and they need our love and our respect and our honor for them as persons. And by the way, this also means challenging those groups that would reduce them to mere sexuality. We are more than this. We are better than this. And any group that equates human pride and human dignity with mere human sexuality is selling a bill of goods that will literally destroy you and those that you love. My friends, I do not believe that the homosexual culture, what I mean by that is a lobby group, is sustainable. I think it will eventually peter out. Now, you may think to yourself, Father, have you been looking around? Have you seen the ads? Yes, of course. But the fact is that this lifestyle does not produce children. This lifestyle does not produce children. And that will eventually catch up to it. And I think that the culture, will eventually dissipate. It's not to say that those with same-sex attraction will dissipate, of course not. But the culture will, I think. And we shouldn't wait for that with glee. We shouldn't rub our hands together and say, oh boy, I can't wait for that to happen. That is not the appropriate response. We wait for the disintegration that will necessarily happen in such a situation. We wait for it with compassion and love and reverence, looking upon our brothers and sisters with great love and tenderness, not patronizingly, but as a fellow human being with real struggles like our own. And we wait to help them and to support them and to make sure that they are aware of the church's actual teaching on this matter, that every human being is worthy of respect, that human sexuality is a powerful, great gift, dangerous gift, and that all men and women are called to love as the Lord loves, with great tenderness and mercy.